Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support.
This is Trixie Roost reporting exclusively for the Truth Seekers UFO Desk. One of our eagle-eyed community members just called in to report a battle between the Space Zulus and the Anchar. So I got out my telescope to investigate this further. Unfortunately, it just turned out to be a simple bar brawl in Philadelphia. Back to you, Stephen.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We are here today by request of many of you viewers. A few months ago, many people started asking me about this new James Fox film. It's called Moment of Contact. We're going to find out tonight, though, that it probably should have been called Moment of Profit. There's a lot of problems with this film. And I have a full set of notes. I watched the film twice. And the first thing that I want to say, because it's not in my notes, is that James Fox made me read a movie for 2 hours. So if you want to pay $10 and then read a movie, I get it. This is a case happened in, Brazil. But come on. Everybody in the film speaks Spanish. And James Fox spared no expense. Oh, yes, he did. He spared the expense of getting a voiceover artist or somebody to translate all of the Spanish. And instead of doing that, you have to read through the entire movie, which kind of pissed me off because I paid money for this. I sat down to watch it. And then, I was kind of like looking forward to relaxing for a few hours, just taking in this documentary film experience. And instead, I found myself rewinding because they just put, the translation in English that you had to read on the bottom of the screen. And I'm visually impaired. I don't know if other people who were visually impaired found this to be problematic, but I did. So I had to keep rewinding because, people are talking fast and the text goes by too fast or it's too small. If you're going to charge people $10 for a documentary film, I think that the first thing that you should do is not make people read for 2 hours straight through most of the entire film. In fact, the only English in the film is when James Fox is talking. Almost everything else, well, there's one guy that was Brazilian that spoke English, or maybe two, but I mean, literally out of a 2-hour film, there's about 10 minutes of actual English where you can just listen and you don't need to read the film. Again, maybe this is just my personal take on things. Like, I don't like foreign films where you have to read the whole film. I don't like that. I don't want to have to do that for 2 hours straight when I'm watching what is supposed to be a visual and audio experience. Now I get it. But listen, this was put out by 1091 Films. There's been many well-made, or at least let me say well-produced documentaries out of 1091 Films. I don't know why even the distributor of the film didn't say, you got to cut this again and lower the voices of the Spanish speaking people and put a voiceover of somebody saying it in English. Maybe this is a little thing to some people, but to me, it was a big thing, especially being visually impaired and all the hype surrounding this film. Oh, I got blurry like Bigfoot. All the hype surrounding this film. And then you go to watch it, but you're not really watching it. You're reading it. You got to read this thing for 2 hours. That was incredibly annoying. Now, we have seen other takes on this film where, on this story, where people did do the voiceovers. I'm sure it was on History Channel. I think it was on National Geographic. And that leads me to our notes. But before we begin our notes, I do want to talk about this. Certainly, this story has had an incredible cultural impact. It has been featured in many UFO and alien-related magazines, even some science fiction magazines. There has been rumors of a Hollywood version of the story for years. Remember, the case happened in 1996. And there's a little-known DOS video game. You remember DOS before Windows, when computers made a little more sense? At least I think they did. Before Bill Gates infected the world with his disgusting operating system called Windows, there was something called DOS, Disk Operating System. You put a disk in and everything worked. Anyway, VGA only, Sound Blaster sound, and there was a video game. And I kind of joke that this is the actual alien footage that people are rumored is going to be released now. By the way, isn't it a little suspicious that this case happened in 1996? And until James Fox was putting out this documentary, no one had ever mentioned that there was video or film of the creature. But as soon as James Fox is putting out this documentary, all of a sudden there's all kinds of people saying that there's a video, there's film of the creature, including James Fox himself, and we'll get into that. But before we do that, let's take a look at this little-known 1996 video game. It's about the Virginia incident, the alien incident. And how many times am I going to get to use this? Probably never again, so we're going to use it tonight. Let's watch, friends, the wonderful VGA first-person shooter adventure trailer.
soldados capturaram nossa nave. Você tem que encontrá-la. Leve isto, vai ajudá-lo. Tenha cuidado com os cinzas. Agora vá, encontre a nave. É a nossa única.
Oh, there we have it. And that, my friends, might have been more compelling evidence of alien visitation on Earth than James Fox provided in this documentary. Also, not included in my notes, but something worthy of mention. I had reached out to Mr. Fox several times and asked him for an interview, and I had many hard questions, especially after I watched this movie, or I should say read the movie. Isn't it interesting that no one is asking him the questions that I was going to ask him? And he's doing a nonstop UFO circle jerk tour. What do I mean? all of the people that bring you all of the frauds, all of the podcasts, radio people, paranormal show hosts, whoever brings you the fraudsters, he is doing interviews with Jimmy Church, that UFO podcast, I think Christina Gomez and a few others, but he is not doing any podcast. And I think that this is very telling, that will actually ask him hard questions. He's doing the UFO Circle Jerk Tour. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he's doing all of the shows that all of the people who are, I consider, UFO con artists or fraudsters are doing to promote whatever garbage, fake shit that they are selling. So I've lost probably any bit of respect that I once had for this man after this project here. Now, I do believe there's a road to redemption for all people, but I think that what we will see going forward from James Fox is that he's going to get worse and worse with selling garbage. He is now officially a garbage peddler. That's right, I'll say it. This documentary is garbage. First thing that I noticed is that this documentary is about a case that happened in 1996. And James Fox has been investigating this since 1996. And there are films available of him. And I got the distinct impression of deja vu while watching, some would say reading this film. I got deja vu. And there's a reason I got deja vu, is because I had seen almost everything in this film before up to a certain point. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, let's, I checked, and for once, believe it or not, this is a pet peeve of mine. When we review a documentary or a film here, we like to play the trailer. Shows people a little bit about it, you know, gives people a taste of the film that we're talking about. But all too often, the filmmakers will copyright claim you for playing the trailer that's advertising their film. I checked, and in this case, we're supposedly not going to get a copyright claim for playing the trailer. So let's look at the trailer, and after we do that, we'll be looking at this film that was already a project ages ago. But let's check out the trailer to this film, James Fox, Moment of Profit. I mean, Contact, sorry. Moment of Contact.
In 1996, the people of Varginha, Brazil, witnessed a UFO event that would change their lives forever.
Só que ele planava, ia perdendo lentamente a altitude e ia caminhando.
Call it another Roswell, if you will. That is a crashed vehicle that had beings on board.
Mas que eles não poderiam admitir a verdade, a população ia entrar em colapso.
Nada temos a esconder.
Finally, the facts will be revealed.
The Virginia case is considered the most well-kept secret in the military circles of Brazil.
My objective here is to put some clarity on what took place in Varginha, Brazil, January 1996.
2 seres extraterrestres foram capturados, depois, posteriormente, foram levados para o hospital.
The witnesses are some of the most compelling testimony I've ever heard.
Meu nome é Carlos de Souza.
Meu nome é Cátia Xavier.
Meu nome é Liliane Silva.
Meu nome é Valquíria Silva.
Em 1996, eu vi uma criatura estranha ali.
Action! A lot of people in this town have a little piece of the puzzle.
Naquele local, eu vi o rastro da criatura, o pé.
Foi onde ele falou que eu vi era uma coisa sobrenatural.
This year,
Mark Elixerez, he had captured this creature with his bare hands.
Você confirma que o seu irmão estava de serviço naquele dia 20?
Confirmo.
After he captured the creature, he developed this infection that wouldn't go away.
Foi pro CTI de manhã, 7 horas da manhã, 15 para o meio-dia, ele veio a óbito.
this can no longer be covered up.
They might shoot us because we're on the property.
This can't be denied.
Bateram na porta e aí falaram para mim:
ficar quieto. Se qualquer que ia sofrer uma punição muito severa.
This was proof.
We pull this off. It'll be the most compelling testimony revealed.
Of contact.
Aqui, ó. Foi aqui.
This is a level of confirmation that only a handful of people on this planet have.
Yeah, facts will be revealed, but he's a little light on facts in this documentary. In fact, I didn't think that there were any. Is there witness testimony? Yes, but there's problems with the witness testimony, and we'll get into that. Did you notice, too, one thing I noticed about this so-called documentary is that James Fox is literally milking everyone else's work on this story to put the pieces of this thing together. And this is extremely problematic because we have Brazilian UFO investigators in this film saying all kinds of stuff with absolutely no evidence. We saw just in the trailer, one of the UFO investigators in Brazil, who, by the way, has been making money off this story since 1996. They all have. So, see, this is where it gets suspect. Everybody, except for the primary witnesses in this, have been making money on the story. And one of the questions I wanted to ask James Fox is how much did he pay the primary witnesses in this story for participating in his film? Or did he pay them at all? You see this UFO investigator in the trailer says this is the best kept secret among military folks in Brazil. This is the best kept secret. Well, that's an absolutist statement with absolutely no evidence. And James Fox just crammed it in the film. Sounds good. No evidence to back up that claim, right? Can we see military documents that were hidden or covered up? No. Do we have on the record testimony from Brazilian military members saying that this was covered up? No. What we get is an anonymous source at the end of the film. And by the way, one worthy mention of note about this film is that the only new evidence that James Fox has been able to dig up in 25 years, remember the case happened in 1996, he's been investigating it since then. The only new evidence in this actual film is anonymous sources. Count them. 5 people that he put in the film that didn't want their names revealed, didn't want to be filmed on camera. Oh, we'll film you from behind, make a big dramatic thing about it. I find this incredibly problematic. I'm sorry. I came away from the film thinking, and I will freely admit that this is my opinion, this is my speculation, that James Fox could have easily just paid actors to sit there and read a script saying what he wanted them to say. And we have no way to prove that these people are real people, that he actually found them, that they are actually who they say they were. There's a gentleman that was in the military, the Brazilian military, or claimed to be, that's an anonymous source, but no one's allowed to vet him. And I'm sorry, but we have seen people make tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, off of completely provably fake anonymous sources. Linda Moulton Howe has done it with her fake Spartan sources, claiming to be, that guy claimed to be a Navy SEAL, but when asked his rank in her documentary, he gave an Army rank. That's not even a Navy rank. That could be some tip-off that anonymous source isn't who he says he is. And I'm sorry, but the other issue is that the people that were feeding him, apparently feeding James Fox, these anonymous sources, were the Brazilian UFO investigators that have been making money off this case since 1996. Again, this is problematic. If these are real people, why can't he release their names? And I get it. Some people will say, well, I'll do an interview, but I'm not. But 5 of them, and it just so happens that the only new evidence since 1996 in this case all comes from anonymous sources, with the exception of one radar operator whose testimony is extremely problematic. And that's another thing. There was no drilling down in this. In other words, James Fox would stand there, and if somebody said something, whether it was an anonymous source or one of the original witnesses or whoever, he would just accept it. No follow-up questions, no drilling down on things, nothing. And consequently, he let people say absolutely stupid, provably wrong things in this film because it fit the narrative. That it's very clear when you watch this film that there is a narrative that he is going for here. And he over dramatizes many things. This is really, really a big problem. So the film opens, also problematic, is that the film opens talking about a bunch of different cases, UFO cases in South America that have absolutely nothing to do with this case. But again, we get to the narrative here. He's trying to go for a narrative. Look, South America, there's UFOs everywhere. There's lots of UFO sightings, even something with a physical case. You know, there was the Ubatuba flying saucer, which dropped some extraterrestrial magnesium. And the newspaper reported it was extraterrestrial material, magnesium. Yeah, and you know what else drops extraterrestrial magnesium? Meteors. And that's what that was. But we don't get the truth in this film. We get a carefully packaged narrative of this is the moment of contact. Everything in this film seems to be purposefully manufactured to sell you a story. That's another problem that I have with it. You know, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I like just the facts. Don't over dramatize things. Don't purposefully film people crying. You know, one of the guys who claimed that he saw this UFO crash site, which, by the way, again, in this story, we have a bunch of disconnected stories that are somehow drawn together, weaved into this more compelling, more, cogent or intelligent, greater story. And there's no clear evidence that a UFO crash several days before this so-called creatures are seen has anything to do with the so-called creatures. It's just, let's just jam these things together. Okay, there was a UFO crash. Somebody said they saw a UFO. Then a few days later, these girls saw a so-called creature. Must have been aliens. These are the lines that people connect. And I think that those lines, if you're going to connect the dots here, you have to clearly establish a causal or connective layer between the UFO crash and the creatures, and he doesn't. No one does. It's just, hey, there was a UFO crash. It must have been aliens. But back to the beginning of the film, all of these disconnected cases that have nothing to do with this case were talked about, and some of them were ordinary earthly objects, like a meteor. A meteor fell. Then people examined the metal fragments of the meteor that fell. Oh, it's extraterrestrial magnesium. Yeah, because it was a meteor. It wasn't aliens, James Fox. But this is what they do. Let's just jam together all kinds of disconnected nonsense. And I suppose in the beginning of the film, he talks about all these other South American UFO cases as if they're 100% established fact. And that's not the case. Again, these are largely unproven stories. In at least one case, a hoax or nothing extraordinary, a meteor. But he puts them in there to somehow, I believe, to sort of set the stage. Like, see, we're in Brazil. We're in South America, and there's all of this history of UFO activity. There's history of UFO activity anywhere. I'm in Pennsylvania. You would think Pennsylvania would be pretty boring. No, there's UFO sightings and alien sightings and Bigfoot sightings all over Pennsylvania, and Dogman sightings and orb sightings and all kinds of weird shit. So if I wanted to create a narrative about Pennsylvania being a paranormal hotspot, I could, but it doesn't work to me. It doesn't work to do that, but that's what he did. Let's jam all these disconnected UFO cases that have nothing to do with each other in the beginning of the film so that we can establish that this is a UFO hotspot and maybe aliens are observing. And that's why there's all these UFO, leave the listener to speculate about why is there so many UFO sightings in South America. There's really not. There's no more. Go look at the statistics. There's no more there than anywhere else in the world, I don't believe. Or maybe there is, and that's another issue. Latin or South American people, in my own experience, and again, this is my speculation, are much more believers in paranormal things than the rest of the Western world. That's my experience. I'm entitled to that opinion based on my experience. Did you know when I used to do magic shows, if we had Puerto Rican audience, Mexican audience, South American audience members, we would love it because those people believe that magic tricks are 100% real. They didn't think it was a trick. You couldn't convince them, many of them, that it was tricks. They loved it. That's Diablo. That's from the devil. Oh, he's in league with Diablo. We loved Latin audiences because they were more superstitious, because they were more of the believer brain type. Just putting that out there. Take from that what you will. So the unrelated incidents then go to the daughter of one of the major investigators into this case, who is in the film. You know, you gotta put a hot Spanish girl in there, and James Fox did, and I'm not complaining. But she says during this, I'm a psychologist. I have no doubt he was telling the truth about the person who saw the UFO crash. And I'm sorry, but being a psychologist, or she says, I'm a psychologist. I have no doubt he was telling the truth. This is the super duper prover maneuver. You know, oh, this guy's got nothing but a story. Throw a psychologist in there to say, I'm a psychologist, and he's definitely telling the truth. I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. A psychologist can maybe have some indication of who's being truthful or not, but just because you're a psychologist does not give you a built-in lie detector to know who's telling the truth and who's not, right? And during the film, James Fox asks us to suspend judgment and listen to the testimony and draw your own conclusions, which I guess is fair because all he has is testimony. And some of this testimony comes from 5 different anonymous sources that nobody else is allowed to interview, vet their claims, vet their background, see if they really were in the military or whoever they said they were. We just have to take James Fox's word for it, who, by the way, is making literally millions from this shitty movie that he couldn't even hire a goddamn translator, so I didn't have to read for 2 hours. Great. Next, apparently James Fox is so desperate for new evidence or new proof that one of the things they did was stand on a street corner with signs asking, do you know what happened in 1996? Please talk to me. And even includes a few people on the street who think it was aliens. In other words, he's holding a sign. Do you know what happened in 1996? Was it aliens? Talk to me. And a few people did. And not surprisingly, people on the street who thought it was aliens made it into the film because James Fox is apparently so desperate for content to create this shitty documentary that he's going to just interview randos on the street that go, yeah, I'm sure it was aliens. And that's supposed to be proof in this movie. And next, James Fox goes to a UFO alien museum to find witnesses of the event. But he doesn't find witnesses of the event. He finds witnesses that had their own UFO encounters and also includes that in the film. These 2 people that he met at a UFO conference, or excuse me, UFO alien museum there, a tourist trap. One saw a UFO that is not connected to the 1996 event and tells his story. That's not proof that the 1996 event happens, but James Fox crammed it in there anyway because he's got nothing as far as proof of this case goes. Next, we get told that the mayor believes it. Why? Because his nephew dated one of the girls that saw the creature. Great. Next, we get this finding of the UFO crash site, which, by the way, there is zero physical evidence of a UFO crash at that location. There is no debris. There is no burn site. There is nothing. Nothing. James Fox has nothing but the word of one man, Mr. Sosa, who says the area was covered with debris. and that he picked up the debris, and strangely, it worked just like the Roswell debris. And by the way, the Roswell Hollywood movie came out just 2 years before Mr. Sousa came out with his story, which parrots almost 100% the description of the Roswell debris in the Roswell film. I find that incredibly suspect. And Mr. Sousa also claims that the entire area was covered with debris. It was on fire and was 100 yards from a little white house. This is extremely problematic for me because James Fox didn't talk to the house's owner. Let me ask everyone within the sound of my voice a question, but if a UFO had crashed on your land just 100 yards from your house, and there was a big fire, and then there was a military convoy and a military cleanup operation, wouldn't you have seen something? Wouldn't you know something about that event? Why did James Fox not go and try to find the house's owner? He sure over-dramatized this Mr. Sousa, going to the alleged crash site and crying, but nobody thought to ask the owner of the house if they remember a UFO crash in 1996, or if their fields were burned from the UFO crashing, or if they remember military people there recovering debris. No, James Fox didn't do that. Or he did do it and he didn't like what he heard. See, there's that lie by omission that all cosmic con men have to do. So I would say, one thing I would say to James Fox is, you owe us an interview with the owner of that house. You mean to tell me that the person that owned that house didn't see anything when a big, huge UFO the size of a small school bus came crashing down, burning the whole field, and there was debris everywhere, that an entire military convoy was there doing a cleanup operation and threatening people with guns, but the homeowner didn't see any of this? The homeowner didn't witness the fire, the crash, the military big nothing? No, James Fox did a sloppy as shit job on this. That is absolutely sloppy work. In fact, James Fox and his so-called witness to this UFO crash, which, by the way, no one can establish actually had anything to do with the so-called creatures, he didn't track down the house's owner. He stood there within a few hundred feet, filming. He saw the house. Didn't he think, gee, maybe I ought to contact whoever owned that house in 1996 and get them to corroborate this Mr. Sousa's story? But I have it on good authority from somebody that lives in Brazil that the homeowner says none of this shit happened. Isn't that great? Now, I can't confirm that. I'm trying to, but that's not my job. That's Mr. Fox's job to confirm that the homeowner there said none of this shit happened, or that the homeowner saw it all and can corroborate his so-called witness, Mr. Sousa's story of a crash landing. Yeah. Next, we get so the witnesses who saw the UFO crash, who lived in the lived in the house. Where is their testimony? They said it crashed 100 meters or 200 meters from their house and burnt the ground all around the home. Next, we get new information tacked onto the story that we've never heard before from this Mr. Sousa. That's a problem. Mr. Sousa says that beings died here. He never mentioned beings before. It was just a story of a UFO crash. Now, a documentary film is coming out, and James Fox needs new evidence, and suddenly, this guy's remembering beings died here. And again, James Fox did a sloppy as shit job on this, because your primary witness of a UFO crash suddenly starts saying beings died here, something he had never said before, not since 1996. And you didn't stop him and ask him to tell the story. How do you know beings died here? Did you see beings? No. We just move on to the next disconnected plot point that has nothing to do, probably nothing to do with the real story here, because we've got to connect all these dots and sell this story to the tune of millions of dollars. So he says beings died here. Nobody stops him and asks him for an explanation. How does he know beings died? Did he see beings? We don't know. I would think that would be pretty important part of the story, James Fox, but we don't get that. Now, the reports of memory metal. Again, this Mr. Sosa reports that he picked up the material, crumbled it up, and it uncrumbled itself. This is the exact description of the Roswell material. And again, that movie, Roswell, came out just 2 years before Mr. Sosa came out with his explanation. Take from that what you will, but I find this man untrustworthy. I don't think that he is a good witness. He screamed making shit up liar to me. That's my personal opinion. And sometimes you do have to go with your gut on this thing. Do I believe this person, or is he making this up? I believed he was making it up. You can listen to his testimony and decide for yourself. But there are some major problems with that man's story, and it changed significantly since he first told it in 1996. And Charlie Weiser, God bless her, is on the case. Carlos de Souza claims he saw a UFO crash in the wreckage on January 13th, 1996. After hearing about the January 20th Varginha creatures, he linked his sighting to that case. His story has changed on several points, but one point is a kicker that proves he's lying. When your story changes, you're lying. Okay. D'Souza resurfaced recently and appears in Fox's Moment of Contact and in an interview on Marco Leal's YouTube channel. Remember, Marco Leal's one of the Brazilian UFO investigators that James Fox is milking to make this documentary. Today, this story is, after seeing a craft descending, he drove to the crash site and he was first on the scene surveying a debris-strewn field. Aside, D'Souza picked up a piece of what looked like the aluminum foil, crumpled it, and sprung it back to its original shape. The movie Roswell had come out 2 years earlier, showing both an encountering a debris-strewn field scene and the famous magic foil. Anyway, 5 or 10 minutes later, trucks arrived on the scene. Soldiers snatched D'Souza's magic foil and ordered him away at gunpoint. 5 or 10 minutes is a long time to be there in a field of wreckage, a very long time. What the F was he doing? He doesn't say. In 1996, D'Souza described a vast military presence when he arrived on the scene. 30 or 40 personnel scouring the woods, collecting debris, some in white clothing and masks, but others not, and the trucks loaded with debris. A huge operation already underway. This is not something you get wrong even after 26 years. Either you were the first to arrive and you were alone for several minutes at a UFO crash site, or you came upon a crash site swarming with military vehicles and personnel. Don't forget the big helicopter. Today, D'Souza plays down the less believable exaggerations while embellishing his leading role into cinematic proportions. The lone young man coming upon a staggering sight, finding a magic trinket only to be ordered away at gunpoint and later threatened to keep quiet. Aside, D'Souza says 2 strapping men warned him to stay quiet or else, so he gave an interview in which he spilled every single bean. Then he was phoned at work and told to stay quiet, even though you already spilled every bean, you meddling kid or else. For reals this time. Yeah, this makes no sense. Why would people start threatening him after he had already told the whole story? Like, you better stop telling that story you already told, or we're going to kill you. But this is the Men in Black garbage that cosmic con artists use to sell their stupid stories. You got to have that element of danger. Charlie, the truth is the daughter of timelines, Weiser goes on to state, D'Souza is an attention seeker, waffling with almost no prompting. He gets defensive whenever you've heard he was there, he held the magic foil, he was intimidated. He collapses and weeps during Fox's obviously staged search for the site. I don't believe him. And there is an interview on Charlie Weiser's Twitter here, which contradicts much of what he said in this actual film. So this is extremely, extremely problematic. Now, the primary three witnesses that everybody trudges out, these poor girls, every time some UFO guy needs to make some money, they go to Brazil and they parade these girls out to tell their story. Every time. And while I was watching this movie, I got the distinct feeling of deja vu, because what I'm going to play you now happened, I think, in the 90s or the early 2000s. But it's actually better than the interview that they did at the same site again in the film. Like, how many times is James Fox going to parade these girls out and make them go to this field where they saw this so-called alien and tell their story? This is at least twice now, and somebody told me this is 3 times. I'm not sure. I can't find the third source, but I've heard there's another one where he went there and did the interview right at the site again. So, you know, it's getting to be like a broken record. It's at least twice now he's trudged these girls out and made them tell the same story. And is it the same story? No, it's slightly different every time. And also, this is a very, very important part about the Varginha case that everybody glosses over, nobody talks about, and everybody forgets to say or mention. And it's important. Facts are important. These girls were Catholic, and Catholicism is very big in South America, so of course they view the world through a Catholic lens. When they saw this alleged or so-called creature, they thought it was a demon. They never said alien, never, until UFO investigators got to them. Until UFO investigators started talking to these 3 women, they never said the word alien. Not once. Never. It was a devil. It was Diablo. Demon. They never, ever thought it was an alien or said it was an alien. Never. They thought it was, quote, paranormal, unquote. Now, an alien creature from another star system that's living flesh and blood, I wouldn't call that paranormal. I'd call that an alien. They never called it an alien until all these UFO profiteering hucksters got to them, and then suddenly it wasn't a demon anymore. It was an alien now. But let's take a look at James Fox one time trotting these kids out. By the way, I think he should have included this in the documentary because this was better. But here's what happened. I think he doesn't own the rights to this footage. And by the way, we're going to put our fair use banner because I don't own the rights to this footage either. But we're critiquing this movie, Moment of Contact. We're discussing this case. We're educating the public. This is a transformative work and certainly allowable under fair use, my friends. This is fair use. So let's take a listen at James Fox interviewing them. I don't know if this is the first time or the second time. I'm told that he's done this 3 times now. Same girls, parade them out to tell the story again so you can make some more money. And if there's going to be 10 years from now, he's going to parade these girls out again for a 10-year special anniversary edition of Moment of Contact. But anyway, I think he did this for a National Geographic documentary, which, by the way, was better than his shitty documentary. But that's just my opinion. Let's get into it. Fair use.
Purely by chance, I've managed to track down 3 primary witnesses who reportedly saw the live alien.
Hello. It's James.
Obrigado. I'd like to start off by saying, but this is like, you know, the holy grail of witnesses for me. So I am like so happy to be here right now. Can you describe to us what happened in January of 1996?
Então, você pode descrever pra gente o que aconteceu em janeiro de 96?
A gente estava voltando do serviço que ela trabalhava.
So, it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This was not the usual way that they would take to go back home.
E olhei, falei assim, só pra elas assim, gente, olha ali.
She saw a little creature that was really sweating. It was like a little person, but with no hair whatsoever, red eyes, and 3 horns. She pointed to the other girls and started running the other way.
if they all had the opportunity to speak to the world about their experience, what would they like the world to know?
Pra mim não foi boa, não. Se fosse pra me passar por isso hoje, eu não passaria.
They said it wasn't a good experience at all. If they could choose, they wouldn't go through it again. And only people who have been through what they have been through can tell how they felt and how it all affected their lives.
How has it changed their lives?
Como isso afetou a vida de vocês?
Em tudo. No trabalho, na escola.
She said it affected everything, like from friendships to work to school, people getting away from them, people thinking they were, crazy or something.
Alguém pode chegar, não, foi assim, pegamos e levamos para tal lugar.
She just says that she hopes that one day the whole thing will come clear and she will, her word will be taken seriously and they'll know that she was always telling the truth.
Well, I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to meet you guys. This is why I do what I do, and I want to thank you from, bottom of my heart.
So there we have it. And one thing worthy of mention, James Fox uses the word alien. Tell us about when you saw the alien. They didn't use the word alien. Originally, they described it as Diablo, a demon, the devil. And it's interesting, too, that the local authorities did come up with an explanation that no one wants to accept, and that is that what these women actually saw was a mentally challenged man who was neurodivergent or mentally handicapped and covered in mud, and routinely was in that area. He lived right in that area. And again, why didn't James Fox go and find that man? Why didn't James Fox go and interview his family to see if he was covered in mud that day? Because that might screw up a really good alien story that you can make a lot of money from. So why bother with the facts? Don't bother him with the facts. His mind is made up. By the way, I was pleased to see one thing. There is a 5-second or so clip of Stanton Friedman saying that if this story is true, this is the Roswell of Brazil. Similar circumstance, alien UFO crash, aliens. But let's go back to my notes. Sorry here. Okay, so it's interesting that James Fox has trotted these girls out multiple times for multiple monetized projects. And again, one of the questions I was going to ask James Fox is, did you pay them the first time you interviewed them? Did National Geographic pay them? Did you pay him to be in this movie? Because I'm sorry, but that's relevant. Not that I believe, really. I'm not sure what I believe about them and their story. They seem very adamant that what they saw was otherworldly and not something ordinary. But you have to remember that these were young teenage girls at the time of the event. Could they have mistaken a man covered in mud for something extraordinary? Maybe. I don't know. But to jump right to aliens, and again, all the UFO people jumped right to, these girls saw aliens. They did not describe it as an alien. They described it as Diablo, a demon. So there's also a mention when he does their re-interview at the same exact site in the film. He says, we're going to get a more dramatic version of events filming it here at the original site of the encounter. Why is he concerned with getting a more dramatic version of events and even slipped and put that in the film? Hey, this is good. We're going to get it. It's going to be much more dramatic interviewing them here where the sighting happened. Let's drama this shit up and make this money, right? Also interesting that it's a gated walled yard, which they had to break a lock to get into. So I'm wondering in 1996, was it, it appears those walls have been there since 1996, but was it gated and locked? And if so, how did the girls get in, or how did a creature get in over what appears to be an 8-foot solid brick wall? Just a little thing. I don't know. Maybe you should have asked them that. I don't know. And again, they first described the creature as a demon. Now, on to the ammonia smell. This was a repeated... Oh, geez. He's back, friends. Gufan says, we want James on third phase of fake. Yeah, because it's a good fake story you could sell. Sure. But back to this ammonia smell. There was a repeated theme that everybody that encountered these aliens, apparently there's some ammonia smell, a mixture of ammonia and sulfur. And even the mother in this film describes this horrible smell that she had to wash her nose out with alcohol to get it out of her nose. And this is, again, another problem, because Charlie Weiser, God bless her, noticed this as well. One second. Let me make sure I'm getting the right one, friends. And you could follow her on Twitter at Like It Matters. Always picking apart some of these stories and bringing us closer to the truth. So this is a problem. The mother, Lily Ann, of these three original witnesses, when interviewed in 2005 by Roger Lear, she said, quote, I am absolutely sure there was no smell whatsoever. And two of the people said there was no smell whatsoever. Valkyria and Lilani. There was no smell at all. Creature present, no smell. Quote, it states she reported a peculiar smell when she went back to the park. And Dr. Roger Lear says, I personally questioned Mrs. Silva in reference to this statement, and she denied it. Dr. Lear, UFO crash in Brazil, 2005. And by the way, there's another film. Everybody's making money off of these poor three girls in Brazil. I sure hope everybody's paying her. Creature Gone stinks. And this is from Moment of Contact 2022. The girl's mother says, I couldn't stand the smell right here in the nose for about 20 days. I even washed my nose with alcohol and water to get that smell out. That was Mrs. Silva, Moment of Contact in 2022. But in 2005, there was no smell. And these are little things, but they matter. Why didn't James Fox follow up or ask, why did you suddenly remember there was a smell when in 2005 you were interviewed, said there was no smell whatsoever, and your daughter said there was no smell whatsoever? And Charlie says, a smell you denied smelling that stays in your nose for 20 days is a thing now when you want to get back in front of the camera. Also says, my purpose with the image is not to say whether or not the creature had a smell. Lear in 2005 found nobody who reported a smell. My purpose was to show the mother's story changed. Over time, witnesses absorb testimony that is not their own, and they lie to get on camera. The issue isn't whether or when it smelled, but whether the mother changed her story, which she did. And I agree. These are conflicting, 100% conflicting statements. James Fox, crackpot researcher that he is, didn't even address this. And I'm sorry, but that's a major discrepancy, especially because James Fox harps on the sulfur smell. Apparently, all throughout the film, including, and that's another thing. There's a story of a man who claims he grabbed the creature, but he died. All this entire story is just too convenient for UFO con artists and grifters. So we have the story of the three girls who just quickly see this thing and then they run home. Then we have a story of a man who claims he grabbed it, put it in his car and took it to the hospital, and then he died of a mysterious infection. Again, are these related events, or are these completely disconnected events that were just jammed together to tell a convincing narrative? And in the case of that gentleman who died, they tried to interview the other witness to that event, and he wouldn't talk to them. So we've got 3 girls who saw something, not sure what it was, went home and told their mom they saw the devil. UFO researchers and UFO con artists and grifters get in there and convince them that what they saw was aliens, tell them all about the UFO crash that happened a few days before, connect all these dots. Suddenly, there's a UFO crash, creatures survived the crash and are running around in the city. So this story of a gentleman who grabbed it and took it to the hospital was supposedly witnessed by someone. But James Fox goes to try to interview that person, and he basically told them, get off my property or I'm going to shoot you. And that is somehow taken by UFO people like James Fox as confirmation that that original person's story is 100% true. No, I'm sorry, it's not. There would have had to been corroborating witnesses to a creature being dropped off at the hospital. But do we get any on the record people? No. All we get is anonymous sources. Anonymous sources that you and I can't interview. We just have to trust the guy who's making millions of dollars off this project, that those are real people and he vetted them. In the film, there's also a telling of a story of an x-ray technician at a hospital who, again, he's got to be anonymous. You can't know his name. And I'm sorry, but it's just too convenient that James Fox is using all these anonymous sources. How the hell do we know that guy was really an x-ray technician at that hospital that the so-called creature was dropped off at? We don't know anything. And there's lots of contradictory statements even amongst all these witnesses. Things are problematic at best. And the only way that you can believe this is if you're willing to put together all kinds of disconnected dots and ignore all the contradictory statements that people were saying. In one case, there's a drawing of an alien in a box, but it's a wooden box. But then another anonymous source describes, no, it was an aluminum box that the alien was in and the body was in. Okay, well, why is there a discrepancy? Why did some people see a wooden box, some people see an aluminum box? He doesn't explore any of this. He just glances over these obvious factual problems. All right, and then there's a nameless, faceless witness, Edson Ramirez, who vanished, right? There's an x-ray guy who tells a story of x-raying parts of the body, but being unable to even see the x-rays, and that the government took those x-rays. Sorry, I want to know if that guy really, if you vetted him, James Fox. Can we see his work history to tell that he really worked at that hospital that he's claiming he worked at? And did you pay him? Did you pay these anonymous sources for their stories? I think he did. I think James Fox paid these people for their stories. And if so, that's problematic. You know, work's not easy to find in South America. If you can go tell some UFO nutter what he wants to hear for a few $100 American, you're going to do it. And for anybody to deny that, you've never been to South America. And by the way, the mother of these 3 girls who saw the creature claims in the film that some men in black essentially came to her and offered her a briefcase full of money if she would intervene and make sure that her children didn't talk about it. But she turned them down. And again, I'm sorry, you must not know anything about people that live in Brazil if you believe that anybody from Brazil is going to turn down a briefcase full of American money to do anything. It's problematic at best to believe that. So the ammonia smell sort of falls apart. The story of the police officer who grabbed it and took it to the hospital falls apart because there's no corroborating witnesses. And how do we know that he wasn't sick with whatever infection killed him days before and suffering from, some sort of, cognitive decline that he thought he was seeing creatures? These stories of the creatures were all over the town at the time. I don't know, but I think that we need more evidence than just stories from dead people that we can't, it's like in a court of law, I can interview the witness, right? I can cross-examine the witness. But here, conveniently, the one guy who he really pushes in this film that had contact with the creatures, he died, so we can't cross-examine him. And the only confirmation that he ever even told that story comes from his sister and his mother. He was apparently delirious and dying when he was telling this story about capturing a creature. His partner will not do any interview about this. So is that good evidence? I think it's weak evidence at best. Next, there is a retelling of other people who had contact with the creature, firemen in the area. But do we get to actually see interviews with the firemen who claimed to capture the creature? Of course not. We get weak evidence. A UFO researcher from Brazil who James Fox is milking to sell this $1 million story, the UFO researcher, retells the story. So I would ask James Fox, where are the firemen? You couldn't interview the firemen that had face-to-face contact with an extraterrestrial biological being? You had to just get a UFO profiteering huckster from Brazil to tell the story of the firemen? Where is the evidence that firemen had contact with aliens or captured one or took it to a hospital? This is the problem. It's like every piece of this puzzle is a disconnected bunch of garbage that is just thrown together, and we're supposed to, recognize that this is a real story. It's extremely problematic. Next, I would say, James Fox, if you don't find the firemen that actually claim to have captured an alien and took it to a hospital, then that's not something you should have included. Where's the firemen? Why don't we get to hear from them? No, we get a UFO profiteering huckster from Brazil that's been making money off this case since 1996 tell us that the local fire department captured one of the creatures and took it. Where's the firemen? That's a problem. Next, we get the story of 3 anonymous sources who saw a UFO in the sky near where the girls say they saw the creature. Again, a UFO in the sky and somebody seeing a creature may be connected, but may not be. And these are completely and totally anonymous sources. Why is there no corroboration? They're in the middle of a very well-populated town and nobody else saw that UFO, just this one family of anonymous sources that you're paying to be in your movie? No. And here's where we get into the last part of the film. It's all anonymous sources who, by the way, I believe James Fox was paying to be a part of the film. So I don't think that any of the anonymous source testimony is valid. First of all, they're anonymous sources. I can't vet that they really are who they say they are. I can't interview them, cross-examine them, ask them additional questions, ask them for corroborative evidence. These anonymous sources in this film have absolutely no value. And if I were to go out on a limb, and I will here, I believe that these anonymous sources are either actors that were scripted, handed a script, or perhaps stories that James Fox had heard he couldn't get any corroboration on, so he decided to just write out the stories and have somebody sit there and pretend to be the person originally telling this story. But again, if we can't talk to them, and again, this man, James Fox, has been investigating this case since 1996, and all we get that's new is 5 anonymous sources. Count them. 5. He needed 5 anonymous sources to sell this garbage. 5. And if not for those 5 anonymous sources in this film, then this entire story is exactly the same as when he told it back in the 90s or early 2000s for National Geographic and made a boatload of money. But the greed of a cosmic con man is unquenchable. It's not enough that he made money off of this story in the late 90s, early 2000s with National Geographic documentary or television show that he was paid handsomely for, that all the witnesses were paid for. he's got to make this new money grab. And that's what this is. This entire film is one big overhyped money grab. Okay. So the X-ray guy is interesting because he's worried about the military. This is dangerous work. It's over dramatized. Everything in this film is over dramatized. And finally, we get to Military X. That's right. One of the sources that's anonymous is called Military X. Oh, before we get to that, there was one on the record source that was new, and that was a radar operator. And that radar operator worked for the Brazilian government and claimed that an American plane landed right around the time of the incident. And then two Brazilian helicopters took off to Virginia and loaded something up and then came back, and then they loaded whatever they got in Virginia into the airplane. And when I heard this, and the fact that there's no follow-up question. So you've got a radar operator who's sitting looking at a radar screen, and he's telling us that two helicopters left the base and they went to Virginia and they picked up something. They retrieved something, and then they came back to the base, and whatever they retrieved was loaded into the American airplane. Well, how does he know that? Sitting in a radar desk looking at a radar screen. How does he know what they recovered, if they recovered anything? No questions, no drilling down. We're just supposed to accept this as fact, and I'm sorry, but a radar operator sitting in front of a radar screen doesn't know what the aircraft do. He knows where they go. He knows, what their flight path is, but how the hell does he know that they recovered anything? This is the kind of amateur hour garbage connect the dots bullshit that you have to do to sell this story as something extraordinary. And that's what James Fox does. So the air traffic controller says the United States Air Force plane lands, and then he goes to say that it was unauthorized landing. No, there would be records of that, right? Where's the military records? Why didn't James Fox talk to the military? What United States Air Force plane violated your sovereign airspace and landed without your government's permission? That would create an international incident. There would be news reports, newspaper reports of that. There would be some diplomatic back and forth. There would be a big problem if that happened. It didn't happen. And we know it didn't happen because there's no evidence that that ever happened. But this is included in the documentary, and we're all just supposed to accept that an air traffic controller has access to this information, claiming that a United States Air Force plane lands without permission or authorization of the Brazilian government. I call bullshit on that claim. And by the way, there is a military base that works in cooperation with both the United States Navy and the United States Air Force in Brazil. And American airplanes land in Brazil all the time with the blessing and permission of the Brazilian government working alongside them. So this is another amateur hour mistake that James Fox should have edited out, but he was so desperate to have something. That's all we get, the air traffic controller guy, other than 5, count them, 5 completely and totally anonymous sources. That's the only new information in this entire film since 1996. Some air traffic controller telling a ridiculous story nobody can verify, apparently being given information. He's giving us information that he couldn't know. He was sitting in front of an air traffic control station. He didn't know what they did when those helicopters landed. Where's the proof? There is none. And of course, they landed, collected, something was rescued, he said. What was rescued? How do you know something was rescued? You're sitting in front of a radar station. He says they landed without authorization of the Brazilian government. I call bullshit. Did James Fox vet any of this radar guy's claims? Did he vet his background? Did he verify his employment? Or is this just another guy that James Fox paid to tell a story? Next, we get these stories of witness intimidation. And I'm sorry, but this is an all too often included part of a UFO or alien story. There's people telling stories like the crash site viewer who says that a gun was put in his face, people threatened him, intimidated him. The mother tells the story of men in black with a briefcase and a money offer. Listen, a briefcase full of American money is more money than that woman could make in 10 lifetimes in Brazil. But we're supposed to believe that she turned that down because she didn't want to tell her children not to talk about the story. It really happened to them. And then the only living witness to the second capture is an Officer Lopez. They go to see him. He threatens to shoot them if they don't leave. And James Fox is standing there like a dummy while this guy's threatening to shoot. This guy threatened to shoot him like 6 times. If you don't get off, but something bad's going to happen. I'm gonna get you out of my property with bullets. If you don't leave, I'm going to shoot people. If you don't leave, you better leave or I'm going to start shooting people. And James Fox, like a dummy, is still standing there asking him questions, which to me makes this thing look incredibly staged. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. He speaks good enough Spanish to get by most of the time, but when somebody is threatening to shoot him 6 times, he doesn't understand what the guy's saying. And he's got translators there who don't say, James Fox, maybe we should leave before this guy shoots us all in the head. He's going to shoot us, James Fox. Nobody says anything to James Fox. They just let him keep standing there like a dummy while a guy says, get off my property or I'm going to shoot you 6 times. And by the way, that is the other officer that was in the car of the officer who died from some mysterious infection after claiming to have contact with one of the creatures. Okay. And then we get the repeated diatribe that all UFO and alien people talk about a cover-up and the population would collapse if the truth got out, right? Yeah, I don't think so. So Military X, we'll go back to him. I love it when people call people X. Like Richard Dolan's got his Mr. X. I think Linda Moulton Hale had a Mr. X or Mr. Mystery X. How original that James Fox's big witness in this whole movie is, again, an anonymous source. Nobody can verify if he is who he says he was. Nobody's allowed to interview him. Nobody's allowed to talk to him. Nobody's allowed to ask him for other witnesses that could corroborate his stories. We're just supposed to trust the guy making millions of dollars selling this garbage peddled film full of factual inaccuracies, anecdotal stories that don't really matter, and more, that this is really a military member of Brazil, and he's the whistleblower. He's spilling the beans about those aliens. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I remember thinking of that poster, I Want to Believe. I have one. And really it's I wanted to believe, but too many times have we seen UFO profiteering hucksters wheel out some shadowy figure that nobody's allowed to know who he is. You're not allowed to interview him. You're not allowed, other researchers aren't allowed to vet that guy's background and make sure he really worked in the military at the time where he said he worked. And we get a guy telling stories that fit the narrative that James Fox is trying to sell, that he saw the bottom half of the creature in a box. By the way, we don't get clarification. Was it an aluminum box like other witnesses said, or a wooden box like some other witnesses said? Wooden box, aluminum box? He doesn't say. He just says they brought in a box and then they opened the box and the creature was covered, but he saw him from the waist down. So I guess he saw the alien's junk. I don't know. But the feet were weird, like 2 toes and a thumb. Great. So it had 3 toes. Some people might say goats have 3 toes. I don't know that this guy saw an alien. I don't know that Military X is a real person. For all I know, it's a paid actor, and this is completely fake. And for those who are going to say I shouldn't accuse James Fox of that, it's simple then, James Fox. Release his name, and researchers like me and Charlie Weiser will begin to vet him. oh no, journalistic integrity. You're selling alien bullshit stories. You don't have any journalistic integrity. I love it when they bring up journalistic integrity for an excuse for why they can't share their anonymous sources that just so happen to be telling everybody exactly what they need people to be told to sell $1 million story like this. Military X, pretty weak. I think that this whole documentary, you could have heard this in 1996. You probably did if you've been around in alien and conspiracy land for a good amount of time. You've already heard this story. In closing, I would say two things. James Fox owes me $10, and I will tell him the same thing that I have told the Cousins brothers who sold me the last piece of shit documentary that I had to pay money for to review for this channel. If I ever see James Fox, I'm going to turn him upside down and shake him until I get my $10 back. This film is not worth even a YouTube view for free, let alone paying $10 American for it. And a final note that I will say is, again, we'll circle back to this. Do you want to read a film for 2 hours? Because that's what James Fox makes you do. You got to pay him $10, and then you got to sit there reading everything people say for 2 hours straight. I found this film to be not an enjoyable experience at all. At least if he had gotten some translators, it would have been quite as arduous to go and watch this. You know, I signed up to watch it. I paid the money on YouTube, and I said, you know, one film he did was pretty good. I thought that was full of a lot of horseshit too, but you know, I was set to have a good time, and I didn't have a good time. In fact, it was painful to sit there for 2 hours and try to keep track of what's going on because you have to read everything. And the final thing I will say, and in full disclosure, I'm kind of an aspiring filmmaker myself, and maybe this is too harsh because, you know, but the quality of this film was garbage. There were some decent shots where he, you know, went to Brazil, but everything else was garbage. He included a lot of archival footage that was garbage, didn't even try to clean it up, didn't do anything to try to stylize it, you know, put it in a TV screen or something, or zoom in or do. There was like zero artisticness in the making of this film. And I found myself wondering why anybody would do a film of this shitty quality. And again, to be clear, the new footage that he did looked 4K and decent, you know, color graded or whatever. But there wasn't much of that in this film. Most of it was Dr. Roger Lear's original film or stuff from 1990s from VHS. And he just puts it on the screen all grainy as shit. And that's it. You know, at least put some kind of artisticness around it so that it doesn't look so shitty. Do something. There was zero attempt to make this high quality. There are YouTube content creators that put out free videos every month or week or whatever that blow this thing away as far as quality, as far as you know, artisticness or stylized filmmaking. This was, I mean, I just looked at it like somebody who just got, it looked like somebody who just got, you know, a camera and a Macintosh, you know, like, oh, I just got my Power Mac. I just got my, you know, my MacBook Pro, and I'm going to make a movie. That's what it looked like to me. And, you know, maybe I'm biased, but I would think that if you're going to charge people money, at least do something with the archival footage so it doesn't look all grainy and shitty and gross, and do some kind of style or something there. You know, I just was surprised. But I got to tell you this, watching this film gave me the confidence to complete some of my own documentary film projects that I've been looking at going, it's just not good enough yet. It needs something else. It needs more. No, some of my rough cuts beat this as far as quality and stylizedness and artistic quality. This was bottom of the barrel. Like I said, this whole thing is one big money grab. And that's what I got from this. I got a man, James Fox, who has already sold this story one time already and made a boatload of money off of it, doing it again. And gee, we need some extra content. So maybe did he hire actors? Did he just milk these Brazilian UFO guys who have been making money off of this story since 1996 to come up with some new witnesses? I don't know, but it seems extremely suspect to me that the only thing new in this film, except for the radar operator guy who is telling a ridiculous story that doesn't even matter, really, 5 anonymous sources, 5 of them. And we've seen what happens when we let some of these clowns get away with using one anonymous source. But somehow we're supposed to let James Fox make $1 million using 5 anonymous sources. And that's the only thing new that James Fox had since 1996 on this case. And as far as the rest of the research, he did a piss poor job. No follow-up, no vetting, no digging deep into statements made. You know, the big thing for me was that he didn't even find the firemen, or he didn't care to. You know, he just let a Brazilian UFO guy that's been profiting from this story since 1996 retell the story. Oh, these firemen, they caught an alien and took it to the hospital. Great. What were the firemen's names? Can we interview them? Hell no. That might ruin a good money grab here, right? Just trust me. Oh, that's it. That's the point of this whole documentary. Someone told me, or, dude, trust me, it was aliens. That's the entire point of this whole thing. And then finally, I guess, sadly now, James Fox goes from my gray basket into my black basket of death. I will never spend money for another shitty movie from this guy. This whole thing was clown shoes. It was overhyped clown shoes. And while we're on the subject of those clown shoes, it is extremely, extremely suspicious to me that timed right in line with the release of this James Fox film, suddenly those same Brazilian UFO researchers that James Fox is running around milking to sell this story and make $1 million from, some of them are now saying that there's a 35-second video that they've seen or they are aware of or military people are telling them about, and that 35 seconds of footage is going to be released soon. Great. Where's it at? And why, if you were James Fox and you were 100% sure that there was 35 seconds of alien footage, wouldn't you waited on this since 1996. You couldn't wait another year until the film of the aliens was released and jam that in there and make $10 million instead of $1 million? I don't understand this. I think that all of this is a coordinated effort to sell this shit show of a documentary that isn't worth the ones and zeros it is encoded on. That's my opinion. You have all asked me to do this. And I have obliged. Now, I want to take some time to thank you, kind and generous super chatters. I apologize, but sometimes it's difficult. I don't to read those in the middle of the presentation. So we're done with our presentation. I will thank all of you. If you've got questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. Lord Ludicrous, I stopped buying these docufilms after I wasted money on that stupid Antarctica film Linda Moulton Howe did. Great show tonight. Keep calling out these BS grifters. Lord Ludicrous, if you still own that, you know how you could get her back? I'll give you whatever it costs you if you send me a copy, and then we will review it and do commentary over it, because that film is a laugh riot. And UFO John Doe with a kind and generous $1.99. By the way, thanks, Lord Ludicrous, for your kindness, generosity, and support with a $4.99 super chat. UFO John Doe with $1.99. Felt like this project was made for TV. I've seen better films produced for free that were put on YouTube for free. UFO John Doe, kind and generous $9.99. The fireman caught the alien with a butterfly net. Even Fox is laughing at the audience. Fox was like, if Lazar can sell his Lazar doc with the garbage he peddled, surely I could sell my garbage BS too. No, it wasn't a butterfly net. It was one of those, I can't remember what it's called, but I was an exterminator and I had one. It's like a big stick and there's a loop of a rope at the end and you can grab something by the neck with it. That's what they said they caught it with, not a butterfly net. But if you have reference to somebody at another time saying they caught it with a butterfly net, send it to me because I like to torture myself with the factual inaccuracies of some of these people. Pinzer flacked them with a kind and generous $5. Thank you, Pinzer. Good to see you. Fox says the people with pics of the creature won a ton of money for its release. Interview on Disclosure Team. Who knows? Much love, Steven. I don't believe that any real footage exists. And in fact, I think this entire story is a carefully constructed myth that is generated by connecting all kinds of disconnected stories together. It's the only way it works. And I'm sorry, but James Fox failed to provide even a single shred of actual physical evidence. But he did the Cosmicon shuffle great, talking about alien metals at the beginning, and the newspaper reported they were alien metals. Of course they were. They came from a meteor, James Fox. They're alien metals, though. This whole thing is, like I said, it's just like a patchwork of different stories put together. And this is how a UFO myth is created. In my opinion, this is all a myth. James Fox or no one else will ever prove that this was extraterrestrials, that there was a spacecraft crash, that these were alien biological entities. No one will ever prove it. But I will make a prediction. In 10 or 20 years, somebody else will come along. If not James Fox himself, he's already sold this story. I think this is the third time that James Fox has made money selling this same story. And I, for one, would ask James Fox, like, didn't you make enough money the first time you sold this story without providing the evidence? Now you want to make another $1 million and you still don't have any verifiable, factual, or physical evidence to confirm the story is indeed true. All you've got is the same old stories since 1996, but now the stories keep changing. Oh, there was a smell, there wasn't a smell. I got there first. The military got there first. Nobody interviews the guy whose house, a UFO, an alien spaceship crash landed 100 or a few hundred feet from somebody's house. And James Fox doesn't think, maybe it would be important. Maybe I should interview the people whose house it was. Of course not. Or he did, and he didn't like the story that he got, which was they didn't see shit. Yeah. And Salty Bits with a kind and generous $2 says, thanks for bringing the truth back to ufology. My pleasure, Salty Bits, and thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Heather Birdie is here with a kind and generous $2 and says, praise the cash. Yes, praise the cash, and thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. So questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. We'll take some questions and comments. Al Warrior says, Stephen, you're making me go by the movie, kind of When the Curiosity Killed the Cat. Yeah. Well, if you want to read for 2 hours, like if you want to catch up on reading or you're behind in reading, that's another thing. I'm sorry. But for James Fox to charge people $10 for a movie that you have to read for 2 hours is bullshit. Dude, I could find somebody on Fiverr. For $50, you could find somebody on Fiverr who would have translated every word of Spanish and given you a recording of them saying whatever the people were saying. Is James Fox that tough, hard up for money that he couldn't spring for $50 on Fiverr so we didn't have to read this thing for 2 hours? That's shitty to me. That's saying, I don't care about this audience. Screw them. Let them read for 2 hours as long as I get my $10. By the way, I want my $10 back, James Fox, because this is bullshit. There's nothing new in this. This is just like I got shades of, yeah, I did get shades of Jeremy Corbell's Bob Lazar documentary, you know? I just paid, you know, for that I paid, I think, $12 or $15 or something, whatever I paid, $10 to hear the same old Bob Lazar story that I heard in 1988. Oh, but there was a hand scanner that was in the film Close Encounters, right? That was the only new thing. It got ripped off for $10. Complizer is here and says, James hoax. Yeah. Lord Ludicrous says, I think he is working on another movie. Well, he won't be getting my $10 the next time. He will not get it. Louise Robinson is here. Just got back home from a friend's in East Village. Train was a problem. All the crazy people. Are you in New York City? I spent a long time in New York City, Louise. I love the crazy people there, though. There was something about just being jammed in there like sardines that makes people crazy. The Out There channel says, James Fox production name, 4/3 of fake. Yeah. I feel like, though, listen, here's what I will say. I could take the $10 that I had to pay for this out of the till here. So I want to thank you, kind and generous benefactors. You got ripped off, not me. You know, but I remember thinking, man, I could have bought a pair of headphones or something with that money. I don't know, right? B. Baker says, Fox paid for an interpreter. He could have easily used the guy's audio over the witnesses. Yeah. Why didn't he do that? It just seemed lazy to me. And by the way, he's been working on this movie. When did The Phenomenon come out? He's been working on this one since The Phenomenon came out. I'm going to see release date. The Phenomenon film release date. All right, so he's been working on this movie for 2 years, and and I guess he's been working on just editing it for 2 years, which doesn't show in the actual production. This looks like it was edited by somebody who just learned video editing, like who just got a Mac or something. You know, that's what jumped out at me, is that the editing was, you know. But besides, here's the other thing I'll say. Like, I will give you one. You can have one or the other. Either you can have a documentary film that has lots of good information, but the editing is not quite spectacular. And in full disclosure, I would say that about Manny's first film, Who's Lou? Like, the editing wasn't fantastic. It wasn't great. He got a lot of shit that it wasn't edited very well. But the information in it and the storyline was very, very good. James Fox failed on both fronts. There was no good information in this. Nothing except anonymous sources nobody can verify since 1996. And the editing was shitty. And you had to read for the entire thing. So it's like 3 strikes, he's out. This movie was shit, right? Or it can be me and edit and have good info, says Spooky. Yeah, well, that's the gold standard, Spooky. That's what I strive for. But like I said, I'll give you one or the other. If I pay you $10 for a documentary, Spooky, and the information is good, but the editing is bad, I'm okay. You can keep my $10. Do a better job next time. Or if I pay you $10 and the editing is fantastic and the music is great, but the information isn't, at least you put time and energy into it. That's kind of the third phase model. Just let somebody come into your documentary and lie for 10 minutes or excuse me, for 2 hours straight, and just edit it really great so that nobody notices that the guy who the documentary is about is lying through his teeth, right? Footy Gangsta says, haven't seen Lou in a while. Is he still alive? I think so. I think, remember, he's taking a break from the podcast circuit, you know? I don't know. Oh, I want a hot poll. By the way, Ron, we have a new plan. Look at this is crazy. These guys, Ron from Cosmic Neighbors. Let me announce that too while we're here. So Ron from Cosmic Neighbors and Anthony from Unidentified S4 are coming to the cabin, and we're going to be doing a special event from the Apocalypse Cabin. It's November 19th and 20th. We've got Unidentified S4, Cosmic Neighbors, and me will all be at the Apocalypse Cabin. And I think we're doing a sky watch. Maybe we'll go in the woods and look for Sasquatch with those FLIR cameras and all that shit they got. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I noticed, Ron, that Anthony's already posting streams. And I don't recall being asked if you're allowed to use my internet. And I don't recall saying I'm giving you guys my Wi-Fi password. So I don't know how the hell you're doing a live stream in the middle of the woods without my, say so. So I think we've developed a plan, though. And for every, cord of firewood that these guys process for me, I'll let them have a few hours of internet, right? That's what we'll do. Cosmic Neighbor says he's going to tether his phone. I've got a cell phone jammer. Good luck with that. Yeah. So, no, we will be doing, I guess I'm going to let them. I don't know. We're going to be doing this special event November 19th and 20th coming up. We'll all be, listen to Ron and Anthony. You should all bring laptops or whatever you're going to stream on, because I've only got a few computers there. And I need them to stream to my channel. But what would be fun and cool is if you guys bring laptops, you stream to your channel, I'll stream to my channel, and it'll be all broadcast at the same time. It'll be pretty interesting. So we should talk about that off air, though. UFO John Doe is here and says, Ronnie Renee has gone full throttle with constant reports that UFOs are being seen in Brazil by pilots. Guess they're here, back. Yeah, it's the aliens. Just in time for the new documentary, right? Come on, Steven. We're going to stream in night vision. Yeah, we got to figure this out. Can you stream the night vision camera on your channel? And then I could just share it to my channel while you're streaming it or something. I don't know how this is going to work. We better do a test run before this is just a big cluster F, Ron, And by the way, Ron, I got some chains and some padlocks and a 3D printer. And I'm not going to say anything else, but you better get that thing working while you're there, or you may not be allowed to leave, right? If Ron suddenly disappears, he's just my new 3D printer attendant, okay? I'm going to chain him to the inside of the cabin where the 3D printer is, and he has to stay there and just make it work every day, right? Ron says he'll take a punch in the face over... Oh, yeah, he'll take a punch in the face over that. So I'm going to check in with a few things here. Any more questions or comments from me, put them in all capital letters. I want to thank the moderators, the chat room moderators. I want to thank all you kind and generous benefactors, and thank you kind live audience members. So happy to have so many people here. You guys wanted me to do this review. I got to tell you, I did enjoy this, though, because I was watching it like cursing at the screen, and I reminded myself of my father. My father was, I guess you could call him an amateur World War II historian, and he knew a lot about World War II. And he used to watch World War II movies and documentaries and yell at the TV. That's not what happened. You weren't there. You're getting it wrong. And that's what I did through this movie. I yelled at the TV like my father, right? Unknown Sender says, test electrical supply to your 3D printer. Well, Unknown sender, it's doing the same wonky things both here at my house in the suburbs and up there at the cabin. So, do you know though? I used to unknown sender. I had a guitar player once, and I had this recording studio with this ridiculous electrical system. It was like 60 outlets in one room, and all these breakers. And his amp always was fuzzy and noisy and buzzing. And he swore up, he wanted me to replace the entire electrical system because he said it was my electrical system. And we even ran an extension cord to my neighbor's house, to my house. His thing still buzzed, but he was, you have to replace the whole electrical system in here, Steve. And I'm like, sure. I'll go pay an electrician like $20,000 to rewire 60 outlets in this whole studio because your amp is buzzing. Sure. Terrible amp. Yeah. And welcome back. Mario's Takeo is here, and I see you in the live chat. Good to see you. Sorry that you got booted. I don't know what happened. I still forgot to follow up on that. So during this week, we have some surprises in store for you, including a guest. We're going to have a guest host this week, and we're going to have another fun show on Third Phase of Fake. I know telling you Third Phase of Fake, put up fake videos is like me telling you water is wet, but we got a good one where Rich from Goofon knew that the video was fake and didn't say anything. And he lied to his audience again. And we have the screenshots this time. So it's great. I can't. I have to, Spooky, I'll message you. Maybe we'll do that one tomorrow. But I kind of like to do that later in the week, you gotta coordinate so that he has time to make up new lies and excuses, right? New lies. You gotta have new lies and excuses when you get caught lying to your audience. And by the way, if you're watching him, how many times do you want the show host you're watching to lie through his teeth right to your face before you say, I'm not going to tune into this clown anymore. He keeps lying to me. But that's what it is, right? Chris says, Steven has the receipts, bud. Nowhere to run. Yeah. And Out There channel, that 2018 Glass Peppers Ghost, you found a clip of Idiot Goofon saying that it was fake or a reflection. And now I can't find that. I don't know if you sent it to me in Twitter DM or if you just tweeted it, but if you could send it to me again, that would be helpful. Because now he claims that he has a mountain of evidence that they didn't fake that one. But when they faked it, he was even saying that they faked it. And we have screenshots of him saying they faked it as well. Goofon busted for what, the 100th time? Well, he lies. That's the thing about a liar. If somebody lies to their audience once, they're going to do it multiple times because they get away with it. They feel like they get some advantage for lying to your audience, right? And Salty Bits is here and says, what's the address, Steven? I may crash the party. Send me coordinates. Well, Salty Bits, you are welcome if you're somewhere near the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. I would be happy to let you come up and you can meet the guys and see the cabin, but unfortunately, we're all filled up for overnight visitors. In fact, because of these clowns, I pile up firewood inside the cabin. And now because these guys are coming here, I got to move all that. There's like a literal ton of firewood inside my cabin. I have to move that to make room for a bed for me so that these guys can have the other room. Sons of bitches. Luis Robinson says Goofon does $40 psychic readings out of the back window of his trailer for real. Does he really do that? Robert Farmer, Goofon is a fraud. So is anybody who associates with him. Please tell me that was not you, Stephen. No, I he keeps saying that him and I were friends, and that's not true. He used to just milk me for his own. And every time I did a character or a funny video, he would play it on his show, you know, because he's too lazy to make videos himself or do any actual work himself. And then I went after Third Phase Moon saying they fake things, and then he put me on blast, started saying I had pedo friends, making fun of my disability. So far, he's called my wife ugly, brought my child into this, made fun of my dead father. He's a piece of shit. And yeah, he's, you know, that saying, like, I wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. That's how I feel about him now. You know, I don't hate him though, because hate is a very strong emotion, and hate requires emotion. Really, mostly towards him, I'm apathetic, and I'm just sitting back waiting for karma to catch up to him. Karma always works. It always works. You can't get away with, like, you know, and the funny thing is people keep sending him money. Like, I don't know. Here's some money, Rich. Go make fun of more disabled people. Here's some money, Rich. Go fat shame some more people. Here's some money, Rich. Go call more people pedos with absolutely no evidence because they said third face fake things. Here's some money, Rich. Make fun of people's dead relatives. Here's some money, Rich. Go say that some guy with cancer is faking it for money when he's not even monetized. Go ahead. Everybody sending him money is supporting that. They're telling him all these things you do is great, Rich. Keep doing that. Keep making fun of disabled people. Keep making fun of fat people. Keep making fun of people's dead relatives, calling people's wives ugly. And in full disclosure, you know, my wife is blonde and beautiful. So somebody saying something like that certainly doesn't affect me. But where I come from, if you do that, there are really, really, really severe consequences, at least where I grew up. If you have a beef with somebody, if men have a beef with somebody and they suddenly bring that person's girlfriend or wife into it, like he did with me, bad things happen. But luckily, I'm evolved. You know, just because that's where you grew up doesn't mean that's where you end up, you know? And I grew up in a pretty rough area, the mean streets of Philadelphia, where people get their teeth knocked out for much less than what he has done to me. But I'm evolved, and I don't believe in that sort of violence. I do believe in retribution, and I do believe in the karmic vengeance that will be coming towards him. And you can't escape karma. The problem, though, and this is where it gets frustrating, karma takes too goddamn long. That's why people seek justice or vengeance and they get themselves in trouble because they can't wait it out. Me, I'm a very patient man. I will wait it out and it'll come. And yeah. Unidentified S4. Oh boy, we do shit differently in the concrete jungle. Baseball bat time. Yeah. And by the way, unidentified S4. My wife grew up in Kensington, and it's an area of Philadelphia. Look it up. It's now the heroin capital of the East Coast of the whole United States. It's a really rough area, and the women in Kensington are known, unidentified S4, to be fist fighters. They fight at the anything over. They fist fight a lot. The women there, and my wife is very educated now, and you know, she too kind of evolved. But when she gets mad, you see that Kenzo come out in her, and she gets, you know, starts talking ghetto. It's funny. But the funny thing is about this idiot involving her is I'm pretty sure she could beat the shit out of him by herself. In fact, I'm 100% sure that if she got in a fight with Rich, she would beat the living hell out of him. He would beg for mercy. And I think it's funny that he's involving a girl that could beat him up. I got a woman that could beat you up, Rich. That's funny. It's called the 5-year plan, Stephen. No one connects any dots after 5 years. Could be, yeah. My wife will spit your head wide open. She don't take no shit either, yeah. Al Warrior says, I think Gufon evolved into a Karen of ufology. Yeah. Well, we don't want to waste any more airtime on that clown than we have to. I'm amazed he still has a YouTube channel. You can't make fun of disabled people on YouTube. He's done it 4 times. That's 3 community guideline strikes. That's 4. That's enough to strike out his channel. He's still got a channel, you know. I don't understand that, right? Or claiming that somebody who has cancer is faking it with no evidence or no proof. That's very problematic and probably a community guideline strike, right? Rich thinks YouTube is shadow banning him, but he's just losing viewers. Well, Salty Bits, that's part of the karma that's coming, right? Can I do any East Coast accents? People say I have one naturally. I try to do more of the more proper Connecticut English, right? Just watch the film Rocky. That's how everybody talks. If you watch any Rocky movie and there's people in Philly talking, that's how everybody in Philly talks. You know, I had to train myself to get out of the habit of, you know, hey, you, we're going to go down to the bar and have some beers, you know? Ufon is just shadow banning himself. Disability abuse is a hate crime. I agree. Mario says, I don't get how he still has a channel. Well, the only thing he has left is that shitty YouTube channel that's slowly fading into obscurity. So, you know, but the bad news is that he gets a steady influx of new stupid people that don't know that him and Third Phase are hoax or fraudsters. So, you know, he may survive, but there's no way that he's going to do as good as he would have done if he would have managed this whole fiasco better, right? But he thinks he's somehow going to pull it out because he's super talented, like a Howard Stern is or something, and that's just not the case. Laziest guy I've ever seen, laziest content producer ever. It's like, oh, I just woke up 15 minutes ago. Let's look on Twitter and see what everybody's talking about, and I'll just play shit from Twitter and talk about it. But I'm an expert on UFOs, and I love that he told everybody he took the best UFO picture ever, and it looks like a security dome camera, right? Louise says you definitely have an East Coast accent. Yeah, I try to damp it down, right? Outer Channel says YouTube does 0. Mario's Tico says he's an expert on fake UFOs. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, friends, we're going to bounce on out of here. I want to thank our chat room moderators, all you kind and generous benefactors. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, for another shot of Truth Seekers. And I'm again here. Oh, look at that. I've got my own aura. Look at that. I am here working on the command center. That's what I'm going to call it. And I've got these huge monitors, and we've got the multi-camera setup working or almost working. Pissed off at Amazon because I ordered a few things like long USB extension cables for all the webcams. Let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cameras. But I have to replace a few of the cameras because I took a gamble on some cameras that were cheap and they look like hell. They're like super bright and all washed out, and they don't match the other cameras. So I'm trying to get a couple more decent quality cameras to replace the cameras that I'm not going to use because it looks terrible. But we'll move back to that multi-camera setup with the extra screens playing relevant things in the background. And yeah, I can show you the one here. It's still a mess in here, but we'll show you the one other site. Yeah, still a mess in here. So yeah, that looks too bright too. Sorry, I moved the light, and that's not where that light should be for that shot, but we'll get that going, and we'll a lot more new surprises coming to you, and we've got some new major announcements coming as well, which I hope to get all that stuff solidified, and we'll be talking about that this week. But new, bigger, better version of Truth Seekers coming will increase our distribution a great deal as well. And I can't wait to bring you the news. So that's all I got for you, friends. I guess the final thing that I would say is, would I recommend that you buy this movie? No. I would recommend that you wait until it's free on Tubi or whatever. Eventually, this piece of shit movie is going to be free on a bunch of those sites, or free on YouTube with ads or something. Don't waste your $10. And James Fox owes me $10. And I saw 3 or 4 people on. It's funny. Everybody that I know that paid for this said they wanted their money back. So congratulations, James Fox. You just made a movie where literally everybody that I know that paid for it said they want their money back. Great job. I hope you enjoy that money, because you're going to have a lot harder time scamming the UFO community with another retold UFO myth with no evidence or no proof after 26 years. Good luck to you. So that's all we got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or cashapp. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Cambion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support.